The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. Picture this: a young man huddled in a dusty cave, completely alone and feeling like the world's biggest failure. For 3 entire days, he's been trying to do one simple thing: sell a single red robe. And for 3 days, nothing but slammed doors, mocking laughter, and that particular sting of rejection that makes you want to crawl under a rock and never come out. This wannabe salesman sits there in the darkness, shivering, thinking about the girl he's fallen for and the life he dreams about building with her. And honestly, it all feels like it might as well be on another planet. Then something catches his eye, a flicker of light deeper in the cave. When he looks closer, he sees a young couple pressed together for warmth, their worn cloaks wrapped around a tiny newborn baby, sleeping in what's basically a stone feeding trough. The mother is trembling from the cold. Our young man stares at that baby, then looks down at the beautiful red robe in his pack. It's literally the only thing standing between him and total failure, his one shot at proving he's worth something. And right there, in that moment, he makes a choice that costs him everything he thought he wanted. But here's the twist: that choice also sets him on the path to becoming the wealthiest, happiest, and most legendary salesman the world has ever known. His name is Hafid, and his story sits at the heart of a little book that has quietly transformed millions of lives. The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino has sold over 25 million copies since 1968. You'll find it tucked on bookshelves belonging to CEOs, professional athletes, and basically anyone who's ever felt that quiet, persistent hunger for something more. But wait, the story behind the book hits just as hard as the book itself. Og Mandino knew failure on a deeply personal level. After flying as a bombardier in World War II, his life completely fell apart. He bounced from job to job, lost his family to alcoholism, and eventually found himself in a Cleveland library one day, looking for a book to keep him warm, while seriously contemplating ending his own life. Instead, he stumbled into the self-help section. He found a spark. That tiny spark ignited something bigger, and he eventually transformed himself from a man teetering on the edge of despair into one of the most beloved inspirational authors of all time. This book is his masterpiece, but here's what makes it different. It's not some dry manual stuffed with sales techniques and power closes. It's a parable, a timeless story that holds 10 ancient secrets for success and happiness. And here's my promise to you today. By the end of our time together, you'll understand these 10 secrets. You'll walk away with a blueprint, not just for selling products, but for selling the most important thing you'll ever sell: yourself to yourself. This isn't just about stacking money. It's about wealth of the heart. So let's journey back in time to the ancient world and uncover the wisdom that turned a poor camel boy into a legend. Our story kicks off not in some glittering palace, but in the dust and chill of a caravan camp perched on the Mount of Olives. This is where we meet Hafid, a young camel boy who works for a great and wealthy merchant named Pathros. Hafid's a good kid, but he's got this restless energy in his heart. He's fallen completely in love with the daughter of an extremely rich man, and he's painfully aware that as a simple camel boy, his chances of winning her hand are basically zero. So one night he works up all his courage and approaches his master, Pathros. He announces that he's done tending animals. He wants to become a salesman. He wants to be like those other men who leave the caravan with goods and come back with gold. And get this, his ambition is almost comically huge. He doesn't just want to be a salesman. He wants to be the greatest salesman in the world. Pathros, this wise old man who sees Hafid almost like a son, is intrigued. He knows that real wealth comes from the heart, not the wallet, but he also recognizes that fire burning in the young man's eyes. He agrees to give Hafid a shot, but throws in a warning. The life of a salesman is lonely and brutally difficult, packed with struggle and countless defeats. Then Pathros tells him something Hafid will never forget. Failure will never overtake you if your determination to succeed is strong enough. The test is straightforward. Pathros hands Hafid one high-quality red robe and tells him to travel to the poor village of Bethlehem and sell it. He can keep any profit he makes above 1 silver piece. Hafid takes off, absolutely brimming with confidence, already mentally spending his profits. But Bethlehem turns out to be nothing like he imagined. The people are dirt poor, and his attempts to sell are clumsy and increasingly desperate. For 3 long, grinding days, he faces nothing but rejection. Doors slam in his face. People laugh at him, ignore him, tell him to come back later, maybe never. Each failure chips away another piece of his confidence. The fear of approaching the next person becomes this physical weight in his stomach. On the evening of day 3, completely defeated, he sits in a noisy inn watching his dreams crumble to dust. He questions everything: his abilities, his ambitions, his basic worth as a human being. He's ready to pack it in and slink back to the safe, familiar life of tending camels. But then Leisha, the girl he loves, flashes through his mind, and a tiny flicker of determination sparks back to life. He decides to try one more day. To save money, he chooses to sleep in a nearby cave with his donkey. And this is where everything changes. Inside the cave, he discovers a young man and woman huddled together against the cold. In a makeshift crib, really just a stone feeding trough, lies a newborn baby. The couple has draped their own cloaks over the infant to keep it warm, leaving themselves completely exposed to the damp chill of the night. The mother is shivering uncontrollably. Hafid watches them, and this strange feeling washes over him. He looks at that beautiful red robe in his pack, his one chance to prove himself to Pathros, his golden ticket to a new life. He unfolds it, feeling the quality of the fabric, seeing those special marks of his master, a circle within a square, and the weaver's mark, a star. And after this agonizing moment of indecision, he walks over to that small family. He gently lifts their tattered cloaks off the baby, hands them back to the stunned parents, and wraps his precious red robe around the sleeping child. The young mother kisses his cheek in gratitude. Hafid quietly leads his animal out of the cave, his dreams of salesmanship seemingly buried forever. As he steps outside, he looks up and sees the brightest star he's ever witnessed, hanging directly over Bethlehem. It almost seems to follow him as he makes that long, shameful journey back to the caravan, his pack and his heart completely empty. When he arrives, Pathros is waiting there, staring in awe at that same star. He spots Hafid and asks what happened. Hafid, bracing himself for condemnation, confesses everything: the rejections, the despair, the final act of giving away the robe in the cave. But Pathros doesn't scold him. Instead, this slow smile spreads across his face. He sees that while Hafid failed the test as a salesman, he passed a far more important test, one of character, of love, of compassion. The star, the robe, the baby, it's all a sign. The sign Pathros has been waiting for his entire life. He tells Hafid, "You have not failed." Weeks later, back at their home in Palmyra, Pathros, now old and frail on his deathbed, summons Hafid. He reveals a secret he's kept for decades. Years ago, he too was a poor boy. He rescued a wealthy traveler who, in gratitude, took him in and taught him the secrets of success from 10 ancient leather scrolls kept in a small cedar chest. These scrolls contained the principles that allowed Pathros to build his vast empire. Pathros received the scrolls under 3 conditions. First, he had to follow their instructions completely. Second, he must always give away half his earnings to the less fortunate. And third, he couldn't share the scrolls with anyone until he received a special sign, revealing the person chosen to be their next guardian. Hafid's act of selfless generosity in that cave? That was the sign. Pathros passes the chest to Hafid, along with some money to start his own business. He makes Hafid promise to honor those same 3 conditions. The final condition is the most profound. The third person to receive the scrolls, the one Hafid will eventually choose, will be allowed to share their wisdom with the entire world. And so, clutching the chest containing those 10 scrolls, Hafid leaves his old life behind and travels to Damascus to begin fresh. He's alone, scared, and completely overwhelmed by the bustling city. His old fears and doubts come rushing back like a flood. He feels like an imposter, a mere camel boy playing dress-up as a king. He cries himself to sleep, convinced he's going to fail all over again. But when he wakes up, there's a small sparrow perched on the open chest, having somehow bravely flown through the tiny lattice of his window. This tiny bird's courage gives Hafid the spark he needs. He remembers Pathros's words, "Failure will never overtake me if my determination to succeed is strong enough." He opens the first scroll and begins to read. And what he reads doesn't just change his life, it changes the course of history itself. These 10 scrolls aren't a collection of slick sales tactics. They're a guide to living, a set of principles for mastering yourself. Hafid learns that the very first scroll is the key to unlocking all the others. It teaches him how to learn, how to absorb wisdom, until it becomes an unshakable part of who he is. The scroll marked 1 reveals the secret of habit. It teaches that the only real difference between people who succeed and people who fail lies in their habits. Good habits are the key to all success. Bad habits are basically leaving the door to failure wide open. Hafid learns he must become what the scroll calls a slave to good habits. And how does he do this? The scroll gives him a precise formula. He's to read each of the following scrolls 3 times a day for 30 days. Once in the morning, once at midday, and once at night, reading the words aloud before sleep. This constant repetition, the scroll explains, will drive these principles from his conscious mind deep into his subconscious, that mysterious part of us that never sleeps and creates our dreams. Over time, these principles won't just be nice ideas he knows about. They'll become actions he performs automatically, effortlessly. They'll become his new habits. Armed with this powerful method, Hafid begins his 30-day study of the scroll marked 2, which contains what it calls the greatest secret of success in all ventures. I will greet this day with love in my heart. This isn't about romantic butterflies in your stomach love. It's about love as a force, as a weapon that can open the hearts of people when everything else fails. Hafid learns to love everything, the sun that warms him and the rain that cleanses his spirit, the happiness that makes his heart grow and the sadness that opens his soul. He learns to praise his enemies and encourage his friends. He learns to look for the good in every single person, because each has qualities worth admiring, even when they're buried deep. And most importantly, he learns to love himself, to genuinely cherish his body, mind, and soul. This love becomes his shield against arrows of hate and his bridge into other people's souls. After 30 days, he moves on to the scroll marked 3, I will persist until I succeed. This becomes his core mantra, his battle cry. The scroll compares him to a young bull being tested in the arena judged by his willingness to charge again and again, despite getting stung by the lance. Life, he learns, tests us exactly the same way. The real prizes in life sit at the end of the journey, not at the beginning. He must understand that each no he hears brings him mathematically closer to a yes. Each failure is just one more step on the path to success. He resolves to treat each day's effort like one more blow of his axe against a mighty oak tree. The first few swings might not even leave a mark, but with enough persistence, that tree will fall. He makes a vow to himself: never let a day end with failure. Always make one more attempt, achieve one more sale, plant the seed for tomorrow's success.